What's up guys, welcome back. Today we are going to tackle the wiring harness for the square body. So I've got the whole engine harness out of the Cadillac. I got it laid out here on the table. This is the one I pulled out when I pulled the engine. I labeled it with tape, labeled where everything goes. So I'm going to attempt to break this thing down and make it kind of standalone. Now I know I said I want to use that factory fuse box. I'm still going to try and do that. But I got a bunch of information from lt1swap.com. I've got it pulled up on the computer, so if I have any questions, I've got everything marked out. It's a great resource if you guys are doing something like this. Like I said before, I've never done this before. I do not know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to do a how-to or step-by-step anything. I'm going to throw you on time-lapse. We'll break this thing down, and I'm sure along the way I'll stop and give you guys updates or tips and tricks that I'm learning along the way, so let's go. Here's where I'm at. I got these all unpinned out of the main connectors. Got all the wires that I need to remove pulled back kind of to this junction point. I put those covers back on just to make sure I remember which plug is which. There's a few that came out that come into this little plug, and then one that came out that goes into this little plug. I'm gonna have to do some checking, see what these plugs are actually for. I'm gonna keep going, stripping all this stuff back and getting all this stuff removed, and then I'll work on that stuff. Like I said, I am not a professional. This is not a how-to. I'm kind of winging it, hoping for the best. Now, if you are gonna do this, you will want, you know, a razor blade and some little flat blade screwdrivers. I got this thing off Amazon. It's a little electrical depinning tool. It's been okay, but I think it's easier to just use a little flat blade screwdriver, so that's what I've been using. So I'm gonna get the rest of this pulled out. I got my kid outside pulling all the other plugs out of the Escalade that are gonna go to that factory fuse box, so we'll have those when I need to start wiring this thing back up. But I'm gonna kind of shuffle this table and get going on the rest of this spaghetti. Alright guys, so here's where we are at. It is a few days later from when I started this thing. My camera died when I was unpinning everything, but I got a bunch of that unpinned and cleaned out. Here's the box of all the wires and everything I pulled out, as well as the fuse box and some other wires and stuff off of this rig. But I went through the whole pinout chart that LT1swap.com has for this thing, took out everything they recommended, everything I thought I needed to take out, and then I was kind of stuck. So I emailed him asking, what do I do from here? This is what I took out. This is the application. This is the truck it's going in, the transmission I'm using, all that stuff. He emailed me back with some great advice. I still have a couple questions that I replied to him with. I haven't heard back yet. But one of the things was, when I bought this rig, the battery cable had been cut and all these wires were just loose and not connected to anything. I traced them back where they went and included that in my email, asking him what these wires are for, stuff like that. He knew exactly what they were for. They're for a generator battery control module or something that regulates the voltage in the alternator, how much it puts out and stuff like that. It goes on the negative battery cable, I guess. So that was a great help. I ordered one of those up. I figure I'll just splice it back in, throw that right back on. He also said I might need a speed sensor for an emissions test. I'm not sure if I do or not. I took that out with all the automatic transmission wiring, but that's easy enough to run separately if I need to, or that may be easy enough to tie into my Dakota digital gauges because they'll have an electronic speed signal, whereas this manual transmission does not. So if that's the case, I can just run a wire from that control box right out the firewall, tie it into the PCM and call that good. So that's where I'm sitting now. Like I said, I did order the connector and the generator battery control module. So I'm waiting for those to show up, but I think everything else is good other than the battery cable that needs to be replaced that was cut. There's also one of those that goes to the fuse block that's cut, so I'll need to replace that as well. But I'm gonna try and get this thing all tidied up, retaped, reloomed, all that stuff, get it installed, plugged in, everything how it needs to go. I also have the headers that are going on right here on the floor. I got them wrapped up in the last video, got the oxygen sensors in them. So hopefully I can get those on as well. Get this whole wiring mess kind of tidied up other than that one plug. Also in the time I unpinned all that stuff, and now I got the computer back, so it's back ready to go. So I'm gonna get going on this, try and get this wiring harness wrapped up tonight and get it thrown on the truck. So let's go. I know the time lapse doesn't show up, but that was a lot of work. But I got her done. I got that harness all re-loomed, thrown on the engine. Everything is plugged in other than I got one plug for the AC over here. I got the plugs for the AC hanging down here. This one goes to the mass airflow sensor. I kind of rerouted it. It used to go in this harness that on the Escalade went around the fender well and up to the mass airflow sensor. I rerouted it in with the injectors so it can come right off the intake and go wherever I need it to, whether I go on the passenger side or the driver's side. So that's ready to go. I do need to tie that harness that goes down across the top of the bell housing in on both sides for those O2 sensors so it doesn't get melted or anything. Got to get that done still and plug in those O2 sensors. I did get the headers back on. Those look good. They bolted up nice. I don't know if you can see that slave cylinder down there where it was pretty close and I had to beat that header a little bit. Got that wrap on there. I think that'll help with the heat. So that'll be nice. All the plug wires in. I do have those little heat shields for the plug wires so they don't get melted. Got the starter all hooked up in there. Everything's good. And then my ground, the ground that goes to the block over here on the driver's side. With these new motor mounts, I don't know if you can see in there, that one rusty bolt right in the middle of the motor mount, that's where the ground and the negative batteries cable are supposed to go. That might be a chore to get out. So I may have to either lift this up a little bit, see if I can get to that, or go to a different bolt on the block to ground everything. But everything's tied in. Other than that, as soon as that plug and that generator battery control module thing shows up, I can throw that plug on here, get it hooked up. I need to get a new battery cable, which I haven't decided yet if I'm going to put the battery over here on the driver's side, kind of like it was in the Escalade, or get a long cable and run it to the passenger side like it was on the original square body. When I get to that point, see how things are. But I think that'll be perfect. I'm going to try and put the computer kind of in a factory location down low at the front side of the fender well over here on the driver's side, and then mount that factory fuse box right on top of that fender well over here. I still got a lot of work to do, but that is a huge step in the right direction, getting all that stuff done. I think next up, I'm going to finalize all the fuel system, get all the lines cleaned out, get that new fuel line tied to the frame rail all the way back, and get my other tank hung. I've kind of been dragging my feet on that because I got to replace some body panels where there's some rust and stuff. This rocker and the cab corner on this side as well as the other side need to be replaced. So I've kind of been dragging my feet because it might be nice to have that clearance without the tank in there. So I may tackle that job next, get that all done. That way the fuel system can go in for the last time and be done and out of the way. But I'm gonna go get cleaned up. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for following along with the project. Again, if you guys like gun content, go follow my other channel, Ballistically Challenged. I do only gun stuff over there, so if you're into that, go check that out. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you guys next time.